I never expected to celebrate my wedding alone. With my son choosing his wife's birthday instead, the day sky was clouded, mirroring the tumult inside my heart. I stood in the empty hall, the echoes of laughter and love haunting me. The flowers, carefully chosen roses, wilted under the weight of unfulfilled expectations. The chairs were all set. Their neatly tied ribbons felt mocking in their perfection. I could almost hear the excited whispers of friends and family. Where were they? My son had decided it was more important to celebrate his wife's birthday than his own mother's wedding. A slap to my heart. The phone rang, a stranger's voice chimed in, telling me the venue would be ready in the morning. Just a day away, and the only thing I had was silence. I thought of Sarah, my closest friend, who promised to come but had not yet arrived. The betrayal cut deeper than I could express. I imagined her voice filling the air, her laughter a soothing balm to my nerves. But today I was marooned in solitude, drowning in a sea of longing and disbelief. How could this happen? I whispered, tears sliding down my cheeks. Then came a sound, a shuffling outside the door, faint but distinct. My heart jumped. Could it be Sarah? My breath caught in my throat. I pushed through the enveloping silence, moving towards the door with trembling hands. But as I peeked through, nothing prepared me for what I saw. A couple stood outside, their faces obscured by shadows, shrouded in mystery. Were they looking for someone? Instinctively I stepped back, the pounding of my heart a drumbeat of fear. The world outside felt surreal, marred by echoes of past laughter, now replaced by unanswered questions. Who were they? What did they want? Then the door creaked open, a cold draft rolling in. "You're not alone," the figure said, voice edged with eeriness. I barely understood the words, my chest tight with anxiety. I wanted to scream, to shut the world out. But curiosity held me captive. I needed to know more. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The figure stepped into the light, revealing a woman with warm, deep-set eyes and an elderly man with a gentle face etched with kindness. They looked like characters from a storybook, mismatched but with an air of quiet understanding. "I'm Zoe, and this is Walter," the woman said softly, her voice laced with compassion that lingered in the air like a balm. "We saw the lights on and we could hear you." Instinctively, I took a step back again, unsure if their intrusion was harmless or another blow to an already shattered reality. "What do you want?" I managed to whisper, feeling the weight of their gaze press upon me. Walter spoke next, his tone soothing as honey. "We've been through our own share of loneliness. We know how hard it can be to find oneself on what should be a joyful day." They were strangers, yet something in their presence grounded me, warmed the frigid edges of my heart. I glanced at the wilted roses, a bitter reminder of my failed expectations, and then back at those two empathetic souls. I hesitated, battling with the dual forces of vulnerability and the remnants of my anger. "But it is a joyful day," I said with trembling conviction. "It was supposed to be." Zoe stepped closer, a spark of understanding igniting her eyes. "Joy can often be elusive. It's okay to grieve what you've lost." I wanted to scream that I didn't need their pity, but deep down, I craved the validation they offered. Walter changed the subject gently. "May we stay a while? You shouldn't have to face this alone." I stood frozen, the enormity of my isolation settling over me like a heavy cloak. Finally, I nodded, the gesture feeling foreign to my weary self. As they settled in, we shared a silence, not oppressive but allowing the room to breathe, to soften the sharp edges of my despair. Zoe moved toward the table and absent-mindedly picked up one of the wilted roses. "These still hold beauty," she mused, her fingers tracing the fragile petals. "Things have a way of blooming again, don't you think?" I was going to marry the love of my life, I confessed, anger gnawing at my resolve. But instead I'm left here, a wedding waiting without a groom. "Sometimes love isn't as straightforward as we imagine," Walter said. "Relationships can be unpredictable." His eyes sparkled with memories he was perhaps too hesitant to share. Zoe's smile softened the space between us. What if we help you prepare? It's still your day. Let us fill this hall with the love you deserve. Even if you have to redefine it. I felt a flicker of hope. It was faint but undeniable. They were offering me kindness amidst my sorrow, allowing me to lean into the possibility of beauty, instead of becoming entangled in anger. Hours passed as we decorated together, laughter echoing through the empty hall. The flowers appeared less wilted under Zoe's skilled hands, transformed into arrangements that danced with color. Walter told stories of how love sometimes found him in the least expected forms, like the stray cat he adopted after a hard breakup. Their words painted a reluctant smile on my lips. But as day cloaked into night, the same crushing dread seeped back, mingling with the warmth of their kindness. I visualized my son, likely toasting to his wife's birthday. A pang of betrayal shot through me again. Do you think he'll understand? I asked quietly, the thought hovering between frustration and lingering hope. Understanding can take time, Zoe answered, but don't let his choices overshadow the love you hold for yourself. Just then, as if the universe conspired against my fragile spirit, my phone buzzed on the table. My heart raced with anticipation, the potential of change swirling within me. I picked it up hesitantly, an unknown number flashing on the screen. Instinctively, I felt the urge to ignore it but found myself drawn to the possibility of connection. Answer it, Walter urged gently, a shrewd understanding in his kindly gaze. Taking a breath, I swiped to accept the call. Hello? The word felt heavy in my mouth. Mom? My son's voice came through, shaky and uncertain. I am sorry. I wanted to be there. For you. Why didn't you come? The words erupted, laden with bittersweet weight. I messed up and I know that. But I need you to. A crash echoed in the background, interrupting the conversation, followed by strange murmurs just out of reach. My heart sank, a haunting feeling curling tightly in my stomach. Are you okay? I asked, anxiety rising like smoke. Mom, but his voice strained, cutting off abruptly. Son. Silence followed, tense and thick. Zoe and Walter shared worried glances, concern knitting their brows together. And in that moment I felt the tether of hope fray, unraveling more rapidly than I could grasp. A darkness loomed ahead, like storm clouds gathering around the horizon, hiding the promise of a peaceful dawn. The air grew thick as the silence stretched between us. It was a heavy blanket suffocating any flicker of light. I could see the concern etching itself into the faces of Zoe and Walter, their warm radiance now dimmed by my turmoil. My breath quickened, each inhale a frantic gasp for clarity. What just happened? I demanded, disbelief cascading through me. Maybe it's just a bad connection, Walter suggested gently. Yet the unease in his voice betrayed his hopefulness. I wanted to believe him, to cling to that thread of rationality in a storm of chaos. No. This isn't just a dropped call, I insisted, my fingernails digging into my palm, the pain reminding me I was still rooted in my own body, fighting to remember the love I had just begun to accept and celebrate. Zoe stepped closer, her presence steadying. Let us wait a moment. He might call back. Her voice was calm, but something in her eyes flickered with fear, mirroring my own distress. But waiting felt like a betrayal to my son, and I couldn't stand by idly while I imagined him facing whatever turmoil had interrupted him. I dropped the phone back onto the table, pacing the small space as I grappled with the spiraling thoughts. He said he wanted to be there. He said he needed me. What if something happened? Walter moved to stand beside me, his protective aura enveloping me, ready to catch the storm brewing behind my heart. Love can pull us in different directions, but you're still connected to him by something stronger. He knows that. I stopped, turning to face him, the desperation in my voice palpable. But he chose her birthday over my wedding day. How can he not see how much that hurts? Zoe reached out, placing her hand on my shoulder. People make decisions based on their own fears and insecurities. It doesn't diminish your worth or the love you shared. Doubt crept in. They were wise and compassionate. But could they truly understand the depths of my loss? The thought of my child's choices, weighing him against the backdrop of what should have been the happiest day of my life, twisted my heart until I struggled to breathe. This moment is supposed to be the pinnacle of joy, and yet it's okay to feel lost? Zoe interrupted, her warmth sinking in. the compassion in her eyes offering a lifeline. But remember that this is your day. You deserve to feel loved, even amidst your pain. As if answering her words, my phone buzzed again, sending shards of hope through me. Without thinking, I grabbed it and answered, my heart soaring with each second that passed. Hello? My voice quivered in the silence, praying. Mom, there was a break in the connection again. A distant rumble of voices muddled in the background. My stomach knotted tightly as I strained to hear. In trouble? Please help. What? I shouted, desperation fueling every syllable. Where are you? The line went dead. My heart plummeted at the finality of that silence. A quick glance at Walter's face revealed the same dismay I felt resonating through my body. Zoe took a step back, her eyes wide with realization. You have to go to him, don't you? But I shook my head, the weight of uncertainty holding me in place. I can't just leave. What if he needs me? But what if there's no what if in a situation like this, Walter said, his voice steady, guiding my thoughts. You have to trust your instincts. If you feel he needs you, you go. The conflict roiled within me, stirring up a tempest of parental duty against the heartache of being abandoned. I felt as though I was being torn in two, the pieces still raw and jagged, struggling for resolution. Zoe reached for my hand, grounding me. We will stay here. You don't have to face this alone, but you should not hesitate to reach toward your son. Nobody knows the depth of your bond better than you do. I took a deep breath, letting their belief anchor me. They offered me a hard-won acceptance, gently encouraging me to step into my fear. But just as I was preparing to grab my coat, a thought struck me like ice water cascading down my spine. What if he is in danger? The room stilled, tension, stretching like taut string, teasing the inevitable snap of anxiety that followed. What if he didn't call me just to comfort me but to say goodbye? Stay focused, Zoe said softly but firmly, her demeanor reminding me that I was not alone in this storm. You'll find answers. You owe it to yourself and to him. But as I fell into that unfathomable well of despair, I realized my struggles were far from over. Not with hope flickering just out of reach, but with the pain of knowing I might very well lose my son to the very distance that had drawn between us. As I took hold of the door, a heavy weight pressed against my chest, chilling me to my bones. The world beyond felt perilous and warped, echoing my own uncertain heart. I can't do this, I whispered, but determination took root. I had to. And just as I took a step outside into the dark unknown, a shadow darted across my path. It stopped just before the threshold. A figure, one that froze my racing heart and left me paralyzed. Mom? My son's voice broke the silence filled with dread, as he stepped into the light. But twisted around him was something dark. Like a shadow unleashed, a figure unmistakably familiar yet undeniably wrong, lurking just behind him. A shiver ran down my spine as the truth washed over me, leaving me drained, a certainty I never wanted to confront, yet felt rising above the tide. In that instant, the precarious balance of hope and despair teetered violently, threatening to plunge us deep into the abyss. The air hummed with a tension so thick it felt like a tangible force gripping my chest. My breath caught as I looked into my son's eyes, those familiar pools of warmth now shadowed with fear and uncertainty. He stood halfway between me and the door, his posture tight as if bracing for impact, and I couldn't help but note how much he had grown, yet in this moment he seemed so small. Mom? He repeated, his voice trembling like a fragile leaf in the wind. I took a hesitant step towards him, desperation clawing at my heart. What happened, honey? You called. You said you needed help. Before he could answer, the shadow behind him shifted, and dread coiled tighter around my throat. The figure stepped into the light, and the air in my lungs seemed to rush away. It was Nina, his wife, but the light that enveloped her felt muted, swallowed by something unidentifiable, a darkness that clung tightly to her, framing her in an unsettling aura. Mom, my son urged again, but with a note of urgency that sent a pulse of ice through me. It was a mistake to leave. I shouldn't have, his words faltered, swallowed by the weight of whatever turmoil had spiraled out of control. What mistake? I pressed, panic straining my voice. I searched his eyes for reassurance, for clarity, but got none. Instead, they shifted between Nina and me, unsteady and vulnerable like a candle about to flicker out. Nina stepped forward, her expression a blend of imploring and defiant. He came to the party to support me. Things got out of hand. He thought it was over, that we could move forward, but the words tumbled out with an urgency that hinted at unspoken depths. "Mom," my son interjected, voice wavering. Even before everything I felt pulled apart. "I didn't know how to tell you." A sinking realization hit me, heavy and suffocating. "You chose her birthday over my wedding day," I whispered, anguish threading through my words. "You did this to break me, didn't you?" No, that's not it," he shouted, taking a step forward, his fingers twitching at his sides in frustration and pain. "That's not how it happened. I thought I could balance both, be there for you, but I wanted to protect her, protect everything that you don't understand." "Protect her from what?" I challenged, each question another grip on the jagged edges of my heart. "From me? What are you so afraid of?" The door shut behind me with a soft click, sealing us in an unsettling intimacy. I felt the air cool, the tension wrapping around us until it was almost unbearable. My son's eyes shimmered with unshed tears as he met my gaze, and it struck me how utterly lost both of us were, tangled in our choices and miscommunications. I'm just scared of disappointing you," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. A breath caught in my throat, blanketing me with a wave of empathy that momentarily dulled my pain. "You think this is about me? This is about you finding a way back to yourself. A path that doesn't involve someone else's expectations or fears." Nina glanced at him, her expression twisting in conflict. "There is so much at stake here. You both don't know the truth." "The pressure?" "What pressure?" My voice cracked under the weight of it all. "Tell me." In that moment, a flicker of courage flared within my son's eyes. "I'm not just my decisions, Mom. There is something more, something I haven't told you. Something I need to. Can we just talk? The three of us?" The offer hung in the air, an invitation tinged with the throbbing essence of dread and hope. I could see the weight of the world bearing down on him, and the reality snapped into sharp focus as I realized that this wasn't simply about my wedding day or his commitment to me, but about the deep unseen fractures that had begun to crack our family's foundation. "Mom," he started, his voice trembling. "There is something I need to confess. It's about my past." My heart raced, fearing the worst but also clawing for the thread of connection that we had lost in the confusion of life's choices. Nina moved slightly closer to him, emotion that felt both protective and anxious, the dynamic shifting around our shared fears. But before he could elaborate, a sudden vibration resonated from my pocket, a message, buzzing fiercely against my leg. Without thinking, I pulled my phone out, my fingers trembling as I glanced down. It was from an unknown number. "I know what happened. You need to hear this. Meet me." The message trailed off, leaving a chasm of uncertainty in its wake. My heart raced rapidly, not just from my son's unfinished confession, but from the suspicion that whatever awaited me on the other side of that message could unravel everything we had built or tried to salvage in the twilight of our emotions. "Mom, what's wrong?" my son asked, his voice laced with concern. I don't know," I muttered, the phone shaking in my grip. The shadows seemed to deepen, a foreboding presence swirling around us as I realized that the unraveling was just beginning. And as I looked at my son, my child so desperately caught between loyalties, love, and an identity that felt torn apart, one truth settled firmly in my chest. I had to find the answers, no matter the cost. The flickering light cast an ethereal glow, illuminating the faces before me, two people I loved yet found myself irrevocably distanced from. My heart trembled with the weight of their expectations, just as the world outside felt unbearably heavy. I blinked as if clearing a fog, but clarity only led me deeper into confusion. As my thumb hovered over the notification on my phone, each heartbeat resonated with the realization that an unseen weight was pressing harder against all of us. "Mom, please." My son's voice cut through the tumult brewing inside me. "Talk to me. What did the message say?" I tightened my hold on the phone, the uncertainty gnawing at me. "It's nothing," just the need to shield him from more turmoil swelled within me, but it felt insincere, insufficient. "It doesn't matter right now." "It matters," Nina chimed in, her voice tinged with desperation. "Everything matters right now." She turned toward my son, her expression imploring. "You need to speak your truth. We need to face whatever shadows are haunting us." The room was small, yet every word volleyed between us created an echo that reverberated into the corners of our hearts. I took a deep breath, steadying myself against the storm of emotions that threatened to surface. "You're right, Nina. But I can't just brush this aside. I need to know what he was going to say. My son glanced at Nina and then back at me, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. There's something I've been keeping from you. He hesitated, the weight of secrets gripping his voice. It's not just about the party or the wedding or any of that. It's about me and things that I've never shared. My heart raced as I felt everything shift again, the whispers of dread echoing through the space we shared. What aren't you telling me? Before he could respond, the phone buzzed again urgently, dragging my focus back. It was another message from the unknown number, and the thrill of dread sunk deeper. Don't ignore my warning. Meet me at the cafe on Maple Street tonight at 8. You can't find out the truth without seeing me. I can't do this right now, I said, my voice strained. The tension coiled tighter around us as I weighed the choice between confronting a hidden truth and guarding the fragile connection I had with my son. They know something, I murmured. Something about us. Then we have to go together, my son insisted, sending a pulse of defiance through the air. He wasn't just on his journey but pulling us with him into his reality. Whatever happens, we face it together. Nina's eyes flicked between us, and a moment of solidarity sparked in the air. Yes, right. We can't stand here and let secrets eat away at our family. I felt it too, that darkness and inkling that together we can vanquish it. Together, I echoed, the concept of unity igniting the tiniest ember of hope deep within. Could we truly navigate this storm? My son nodded, renewed determination on his face. We don't have to be alone in this. Yet, lurking just beneath that fragile flicker of hope, was the fear of what was at stake, of any number of truths waiting to unravel the delicate threads that held us together. But what if this truth hurts us more? I whispered, my voice quavering. Then we deal with it. We can't keep living under the shadows of lies, he spoke, conviction overlaying his fear. The three of us stood there, an emotional battleground where vulnerabilities clashed and collided. It felt like standing on the brink of a precipice, ready to leap into the unknown with nothing but fragile threads binding us. All right, I conceded, the weight of the moment pressing heavily on my chest. But we need to set ground rules. Honesty is non-negotiable. If we meet this person, we need to hold each other accountable. No more hiding. As we began forming the foundation of this pact, I sensed an undeniable fissure in my heart, an instinct that this conversation was only the beginning of a much larger revelation. Minutes stretched as we exchanged glances filled with trepidation and courage. Yet there was an underlying force propelling us forward, a promise that we would shine light on the dark corners of our lives together. But just as we reached a moment of fragile understanding, another vibration seeped into the air. A third message flickered to life on my phone, illuminating a sentence that sent a chill racing down my spine. Your son isn't who you think he is. The ground seemed to shift beneath me as I spun around to face him, disbelief and fear colliding in a storm of emotion. Whatever truth waited on the other side of this revelation, I could feel it in my bones. We had stepped onto the precipice of a journey that would test us in ways unimaginable. And in that moment, the air thick with impending chaos, my worst fears crystallized, the weight of uncertainty heavier than any darkness I'd ever known. The cafe on Maple Street buzzed with an unusual liveliness, contrasting sharply with the tension that clung to our small group as we entered. The smell of freshly brewed coffee and baked goods wafted around us, laced with the faint scent of syrupy sweetness, yet nothing could soothe the heaviness we carried. My mind raced with thoughts as the clock relentlessly ticked towards 8. Nina squeezed my hand reassuringly, her warmth momentarily breaching my trepidation. I could see it swirling in my son's eyes as well, a mix of excitement and dread. We were bound by a shared purpose, yet each step felt as though it was leading us closer to some unfathomable truth. My heart thudded heavily in my chest, every beat a reminder of the fragility of our resolve. Let us find a table in the corner, I suggested, trying to maintain a level of normalcy amidst the chaos. As we settled in, the muted chatter around us faded into oblivion, swallowed by the thundercloud of anxiety hanging over our heads. The faint hum of conversation and the clinking of coffee cups created a backdrop against our silence. I glanced around, half expecting someone to jump out at us, while the other half of me wanted to retreat to the safety of our home and bury my head under the blankets. But retreating wasn't an option anymore. Are we ready for this? Nina's voice trembled, hinting at the weight of unspoken fears. What if they reveal something awful? I don't know, I admit it, a knot twisting painfully in my gut. But we can't hide any longer. The irony of my words wasn't lost on me. I was desperately trying to face our reality while grappling with the shadows that lurked in our past. My son shifted uneasily, biting his lip. No matter what happens, I want you both to know I love you. That one change. His declaration surged through the air like a lifebuoy in tumultuous seas, connecting us once more in this sleepless night as if summoned by some unseen force. A figure approached our table, a silhouette that started as a vague outline and sharpened into focus as they stepped into the light. It was a man, disheveled yet bewitchingly charismatic, with an unsettling smile playing on his lips. My heart lurched at the sight of him. "I'm glad you came," he said, the words wrapping themselves around us like a chilling mist. "We have a lot to discuss." Just as I opened my mouth to speak, the cafe door swung open. A gust of wind whistled through, carrying an unfamiliar presence along with it. I turned, my breath hitching. There in the doorway stood a woman, strikingly beautiful, and yet something about her triggered an unease deep within me. She glanced around before her gaze settled on our table, a knowing smile curling at the corners of her mouth. "Mom," my son whispered, his voice barely audible over the rise and fall of the cafe's ambience. Horror spread across his features as recognition dawned upon him. I felt my heart plummet like a stone. "What are you doing here?" I managed to murmur, my words trembling on the cusp of disbelief. I had never seen this woman before but felt instinctively connected to the tension she ignited. A distant echo of betrayal reverberated through my bones as the sudden realization struck this was no mere coincidence. "I'm here to help," she finally spoke, her tone deceptively soothing. "But more than that, I'm here for him." She gestured toward my son, and the implication hung heavily in the air, twisting the knife further into the fabric of our family. "Help? What do you mean?" I demanded, anger flaring as protectiveness surged within me. The man chuckled lightly, though his eyes remained serious. "You're in deeper than you understand. There are truths about your family that demand confrontation, and she carries secrets that can set you free or tear you apart." "Stop!" I nearly shouted, clenching my fists on the table. My son looked torn between fear and curiosity. "We came here for answers, not confusion. If you have something to say, just say it." "Very well," the woman replied, a challenge in her gaze. "But first you need to realize that you're not alone. We're all part of it, a cycle, and you need to break it." "A cycle?" I echoed, the word tasting bitter on my tongue. My mind raced through the possibilities, but the clarity was dampened by anxiety. "Your son isn't just facing his demons alone. This has implications that reach back through generations of your family. And if you don't understand your past, it will haunt your future." Panic rose within me, visions of secrets long buried clawing their way to the surface. I glanced at my son, who appeared transfixed yet terrified. The door swung open again, and another figure stepped in, this time a young girl, her eyes wide with innocence, clutching a teddy bear as if seeking solace from the storm brewing around us. A wave of fear crashed over me. How many more lives were entwined in this dark web? "Mom, what is happening?" My son looked between the three new arrivals, desperation etched across his features. The weight of our choices lingered in the air as I defended the fragile line separating our family from the chaos threatening to engulf us. But was that line only a mirage? As I prepared to speak, grappling for some words that might make sense of this spiraling madness, the girl shifted closer to the woman, and the echo of my past softly murmured in my ears too vividly, too cruelly pressing upon my heart the weight of impending revelation. A shudder ran through me as the realization hit. We were entangled in a narrative I had never written, with threads I had yet to decipher. With each beat of my heart the walls closed in. And then, with a simple gesture, the woman extended her hand toward my son. "If you're ready to hear the truth, there's no going back." I met my son's gaze, the fear mirrored in his eyes, but also an insatiable yearning for discovery. With that unspoken choice on the horizon, I felt the ground shift beneath us once more, as though we were standing at the edge of something monumental. The question echoed in the air, laden with the weight of what lay ahead. How far were we willing to go? And would we come out stronger or forever changed? The cafe's lively energy felt suffocating as the woman extended her hand, each second stretching painfully like the half-formed words clinging to the back of my throat. My son stared at her wide-eyed, caught between the allure of uncovering hidden truths and the instinctual fear protecting his innocence. "What do you mean, hear the truth?" he finally asked, his voice barely breaking the surface of tension smothering us. "We all carry burdens," she replied with a calm that belied the storm in her eyes. "Sometimes those burdens belong to us, sometimes they belong to our parents, our ancestors. They shape who we are, even if we go through life unaware of their influence." She paused, her gaze settling on me as if sensing my turmoil. "You worry for him, but this truth could also offer him freedom." I glanced at my son, trying to decipher the conflict brewing within him. The little girl clutched her teddy bear tighter, her wide eyes darting between our blossoming crisis and the faces of strangers. I could sense the weight of generations pressing down on my shoulders, a heavy mantle I had never asked to wear. "What does this have to do with me?" My son's voice broke through the room's thick air, laced with a mixture of apprehension and burgeoning resolve. "My birthday's tomorrow, and he faltered, then looked back at the woman, clearly embroiled in his struggle to comprehend the magnitude of his circumstances. "You were born into a legacy that reaches far beyond your understanding. The road ahead isn't easy, but the choice to embrace it could lead you to answers and healing. And whoever is waiting for you on the other side of this journey can help you navigate through to the future if you let her." "Who are you?" I cut in, my heart beating heavily. "What do you really want from us?" The disheveled man stepped forward, his expression suddenly grave. "To provide the truth is not our aim, but rather to guide you at a cost to us, perhaps. You aren't merely spectators in this tale. You wield the power to rewrite it, but every choice comes with its sacrifice." A flash of rage ignited within me. "What sacrifice? What could you know about what we've endured?" "I know more than you think." The man's eyes darkened as he stepped back, creating a space that felt both protective and alienating. "But this is not just about you, it's about him. He deserves to decide for himself whether he accepts this struggle." The little girl molded herself closer to the woman, her tiny voice quivering with innocence. "Isn't it scary?" she piped up, looking to my son. "It feels scary, but Mommy says sometimes we must be brave to find the ones we love." "What does she mean?" My son's gaze snapped between the woman and the trembling girl. "Who's scared? Or are you just pretending? No one wants to scare you, but you must confront what you're feeling, the fear of the unknown and yes, the possibility of the truth." The woman's voice softened, somehow maternal amid the tension. "But what if the truth hurts?" he retaliated, youthful defiance rising from the raw vulnerability of being stuck between childhood and maturity. "What if it tears us apart?" A fresh wave of anxiety washed over me, prompting me to grasp his hand tighter, ready to protect him from the reality that may very well unravel the fabric of everything we had known. Yet beneath my protective instincts lingered a small flicker of hope, a silent longing for connection, for resolution, for peace. "Life is full of hurt," the woman replied gently, "but from that hurt we grow. If we bury it, it festers and influences our lives in ways we don't understand until it's nearly too late." I knew that pain, it had wreathed itself around my heart long ago, but understanding it had eluded me, leaving me tethered to shadows I hadn't known I was still carrying. "Today was supposed to be my birthday," my son voiced, a mix of heartbreak and realization flooding his tone. "And you're saying it's tied into all of this?" "Not just today," she responded, her voice resonating with an almost ethereal quality. "Your birth is a touchstone in this story, a marker upon a timeline of dreams and disappointments." Suddenly, the idea of celebration felt frivolous, like ashes in the wind, and I felt selfish for wanting his special day unmarred by this storm. The close-knit fabric of our family began to fray at the seams, our bond hanging by the fragile thread of latent truths that begged for recognition. "I can't," my son whispered suddenly, the realization dawning in his eyes like the first rays of a grim dawn. "I can't hear these things alone." Then, without warning, the cafe lights flickered, casting shifting shadows on our little group. The barista, usually a warm presence with a genuine smile, appeared disordered, her face twisted with confusion and concern. "Everyone outside, there's something happening. It looks urgent." My heart raced as she gestured toward the windows, where darkness suddenly swirled outside in an unpredictable gust, the sounds of distant commotion pressing insistently at the edges of our reality. The warmth of the cafe turned ominous as the chill crept beneath our skin, The world outside beckoned a potential revelation bursting forth from chaos. Our destinies seemed poised at the precipice of the unknown, a transformative journey that stripped us of our illusions, forcing us to face our deepest fears. But what awaited us beyond the threshold? And what truth lay in wait, ready to reshape our lives in ways neither I nor my son could tolerate? As we exchanged looks, a surge of determination rippled through my chest, readying me for one final confrontation with both the known and the foreign. In that moment, it felt as if the very ground beneath our feet trembled as we grappling with the weight of the unfolding narrative, standing on the brink of an awakening that stretched across generations, a chance to confront our demons and perhaps salvage the love binding us. Yet as hesitation gripped me anew, I was pulled toward the reality that we might not emerge unscathed. Each choice might irrevocably carve its mark on our souls. Was it too late to turn back? And just before we could step forward, a chilling scream echoed outside, slicing through our resolve and deepening the notion that no matter the strife, we would never truly be alone on this path again. The scream reverberated in my ears, a piercing sound that seemed to pull the very air from my lungs. My body instinctively tensed, every maternal fiber urging me to shield my son from the horrors that lurked outside. But as an unsettling silence fell in the cafe, I felt the moment stretch, time itself hanging like a pendulum in the balance. We were bound together in a suspended reality that felt both empowering and paralyzing. The disheveled man stepped closer, a flicker of concern replacing the somber shadows that had danced in his eyes. Stay close. We don't know what's happening, but we can't let fear overwhelm us. His voice was low and steady, effortlessly cutting through the chaos around us. I turned to the woman, searching for reassurance in her gaze, but her expression mirrored my own uncertainty. What should we do? I murmured, more as a plea for sanity in a world suddenly overwhelmed by emotions. Listen, she urged, her voice hardly louder than a whisper. Sometimes the truth comes disguised as fear. We must brave the storm outside if we're to find answers. My son's hand trembled within mine, and I felt the weight of his fears pressing down on both of us. But what if it's too much? He whispered, and I could hear the tremor of his voice threatening to crack under the strain of impending revelations. What could possibly be waiting for us that would mend or fray our fragile bond even further? Pushing aside my own doubts, I squeezed his hand tighter. We're in this together, sweetheart. No matter what happens, we'll face it side by side. Taking a deep breath, I led him towards the cafe doors, my heart pounding with every step. The faces of the patrons peering into the street mirrored my own trepidation, an amalgamation of fear, curiosity, and an aching yearning for normalcy once disrupted. Amid the growing tension, I caught sight of the barista, her expression now one of haunted unease, her nervous hands clenching at the countertop as she peeked out as the door swung open. The tempest outside wrapped around us, chilling my skin. The commotion was louder now, a cacophony of raised voices mingling with sharp, metallic sounds that set my nerves aflame. Shapes moved erratically in the dim light, and in the distance, a flicker of flames danced against the darkening sky. Mom! What is happening? My son adjusted his grip on me, and I could feel the tremors of his body vibrating with fear, the innocence of childhood hardening into a shield of apprehension. Before I could respond, the disheveled man surged forward, taking charge with an air of unexpected authority. We must go, he yelled, urging us into the streets. I can guide you, but time is of the essence. Where? I demanded, panic-lacing my tone. My instinct was to protect my son at all costs, even if the path we took was fraught with danger. Towards the sound of the truth, he replied, his intensity unyielding. The chaos will lead us to what we need to confront. Why can't we just run away? I retorted, my voice barely masking the desperation I felt. Running one T set you free, the woman interjected, stepping closer to us, her warm gaze flickering with strength. Facing the chaos is the only way you'll understand the burdens you carry together. My son looked up at me, his eyes gathering strength from the united front of our small group. It filled me with a bittersweet pride, realizing that he was ready to step into the unknown. Just like I was, despite the fear coiling in my stomach like an unruly serpent, we forged ahead into the disarray, the uncertain streets unraveling before us like a primordial tapestry. Shadows flickered past, and we stumbled upon small moments of kindness amid the turmoil. A shopkeeper ushering a family to safety, children leading their frightened parents away from the chaos. As we navigated the thrumming heart of the disarray, a deeper sense of community nestled itself within us, a shared bond woven through the anxious faces of those caught in this storm. Together, we were no longer defined solely by our pasts but transformed by the larger narrative we were now a part of. Suddenly, the ground beneath us shook as another ear-splitting scream sliced through the air. This one was different, a mournful wail that resonated in the marrow of my bones. My heart sank as I perceived the shift in the atmosphere, a tangible and haunting shift of dread. "Keep moving," the disheveled man urged, but my feet felt rooted in place. While the anguished cry echoed, a horrifying realization gripped me, a harrowing thought that the voice could belong to someone I knew, someone I had once loved, once lost. "Mom, we have to go." My son tugged insistently on my sleeve, his youthful desperation met with the resolute depth of my heart's inner turmoil. But just as I stumbled forward, I caught a glimpse of our surroundings a block further down, illuminated by flickering street lamps. The figure of a woman sprawled on the ground, her body crumpled like a wilted flower. She appeared to be calling out, her face twisted with pain. As I squinted to make out her features amidst the chaos, and the realization washed over me, each heart-wrenching detail colliding violently with my thoughts. The scream was that of someone from my past, a piece of a life I had thought was long buried beneath the weight of time. "Mom!" My son cried out again, urgency lacing his voice, and it struck me that soon, I could lose not just what lay behind me, but all that I was hoping to protect in front of me. Was this the truth coming for us? Or was it the final blow of a legacy that was meant to shatter me? The question clung to the depths of my heart, heavy with the promise of impending sorrow or a chance at understanding. As we rushed forward toward the figure and the looming uncertainty, I felt as if the universe had conspired, drawing the threads of fate tighter around us, all leading to this one pivotal moment that threatened to unravel everything. The flickering flames cast elongated shadows as I pushed forward, my heart racing not only with fear but with a whirlwind of memories that crashed against the shores of my consciousness. The figure on the ground became clearer with each step. The streetlights illuminated the familiar contours of a face I had long ago buried, a face that once brought me warmth amid an icy world. "Mom!" My son's voice shattered the echoing cries that surrounded us, pulling me back from the brink of memory's grasp. His grip on my hand tightened, an anchor in this tumultuous storm. He tugged me gently, urging me to move, to protect ourselves from whatever truths awaited us further ahead. "I can't just leave her," I yelled as fear and anger pulsed through my veins. The woman's face twisted in agony, and my heart ached with regret, furious with itself for wanting to reach back into a past I should have left behind. "Mom, please." My son's plea cut through the haze. "She needs help, but you need to take care of us first." His innocence collided with the weight of what it meant to care for another, reminding me of the burden of responsibility I bore. I swallowed hard, torn between the haunting echoes of what was and the fierce love that tethered me to the present. It was a clash of loyalty, of memories that raged against the hope I dared to cling to. The woman's figure quivered, her sobs resonating through the night as if they knew of the unresolved fractures hidden in my heart. But I had made a promise to my son. In a world where chaos threatened to swallow us whole, I could not slip into the silence of my past just yet. I shifted my gaze away from the woman, looking deeply into my son's frightened eyes. In that moment I realized this journey wasn't just about facing danger. It was about forging a future we had both been denied. "I'm so sorry," I whispered, turning my back on the ghost of my past. Yet, the very act felt like a betrayal, and I worried for the potential weight of that choice. Would I always feel her absence hovering above us? We ran, the chaos pushing us forward as shadows danced menacingly around us. The sounds of screams and distant sirens cut through the night, but along with the fear, something else flickered in the air. An unexpected current of determination. I noticed a group of strangers banding together in the street, uniting to help those in distress regardless of their own fears. It stirred a longing within me, the desire to embrace the strength of community amid suffering. "Stay close," I repeated, clutching my son's hand like a lifeline as we wove through the crowd. Faces blended into a blur, but I could still catch glimpses of kindness: an elderly couple shielding their infant from the chaos, a teenager offering his jacket to a shivering woman. It reminded me that we were not alone, even in darkness. Despite the complexities of our situation, a small ember of hope ignited within me. Maybe we could emerge from this nightmare, not merely intact but transformed, and perhaps freed from the chains of our past. But just as the initial flicker of light brightened my spirits, the scream that had haunted us earlier echoed once more. Echoing through me this time, it grew sharper, more desperate. Standing in the midst of the crowd was a tall figure, eyes wild, and his skin glistened with sweat. My heart ached as the recognition punctured my tenuous hope. He was my brother, the one I had not seen in years, a brother torn away by circumstances I could not fathom. I felt the world collapse inward, memories swirling like the chaos surrounding us. "Help! I need," he started, but before he could finish, the tension of the night turned electric, crashing against the fabric of our reunion. People surged forward, their screams now mingling with the crackling air as a police siren wailed closer. "Mom! He shouldn't be here!" my son shouted, pulling me back, perhaps sensing the dread creeping into my heart. Would my decision to confront the past push us toward impending ruin? Could my brother, caught in the web of what had divided our family, be a beacon, or another danger headed our way? The choice hung heavily in the air, a taut wire stretched between fear and hope. In that fragment of time, everything I had once known warped and twisted before me. Would confronting my brother, the ghost of unresolved pain, offer the answers I sought, or plunge us deeper into turmoil? Either way, we were bound in this moment, teetering on the cliff's edge of emotional resolution. "Mom, please!" My son's voice trembled, desperate for direction as the chaos crescendoed around us. And in that heart-wrenching instant, I understood running from my past could mean stumbling into a future unprepared for both rejection or reconciliation. What would be left for us after this moment? The question hung, taunting me, suspended in a horrifying limbo, echoing with the cries of the night. As my brother stumbled toward us, his eyes wild and filled with a desperate mixture of recognition and fear, time seemed to stretch infinitely in that frenzied moment. I felt my son grip my hand tighter, his unease amplifying the chaos swirling around us. Memories surged through my mind like an unyielding tide. Childhood laughter, shared secrets, and the deep bond we once had tainted by betrayal and silence. "Stop!" I shouted suddenly, my voice breaking through the cacophony. It was a command both for him and for myself. I needed to reclaim our narrative, to stand firm amidst the cyclone of emotions threatening to annihilate us. "You can't just walk in here and expect everything to be okay. Do you even know what you left behind?" As I spoke, I realized our past wasn't just a shadow to run from or a weight to carry. It was a part of the fabric that intertwined our lives, a thread whose pull often left me breathless. My brother's eyes widened in surprise, before settling into a steely resolve. "I came because I heard. I thought it was finally time to talk." "I cut you out for a reason," I shot back, feeling the familiar sting of betrayal ignite my anger. The hurt was palpable, yet beyond that lay an unexpected flicker of recognition. This was the moment I had avoided for too long. I didn't just seek the undoing of the past. I craved to breathe new life into our tangled origins. Would he too seek redemption? But as emotions coiled tightly among us, another air of urgency rippled through the crowd, prompting an eruption of movement. It was clear the turmoil outside demanded our attention. We had to choose to stay united, yet I felt the urge to flee, to protect my son from further heartache. "Mom!" My son's voice cut through the chaos, bringing me back. "We can't abandon each other. Not again." His eyes burned with conviction, reminding me that I wasn't alone in this fight. He needed me to bridge the divides between family, even if they felt insurmountable. "Whatever it is, we face it together. Just like we agreed." The raw power of his words swept through me, fueling hope with each syllable. I glanced at Nina, who nodded, her hand still clutched tightly around mine. Love surged within me, binding us as we stood by the precipice of uncertainty, each heartbeat syncing with a collective pulse of courage. "Nobody is abandoning anyone," I said firmly, addressing both my brother and my son. "The world outside may be chaotic, but our truth is here. This is where we'll forge ahead." Taking a step closer to my brother, I searched his face for any trace of the boy I once knew, but found only a shadow of loss mirrored in his eyes. "What are you afraid of?" I asked softly, caught between hope and despair. "We can't heal if we keep this wall between us." He opened his mouth to speak, struggling against the weight of unspoken words, pain evident in his eyes. But the noise around us grew louder, The winds of chaos whipped through the streets as more screams punctuated the night. Shifts in the shadows hinted at more than just uncertainty. It was as if we were mere pawns in a game far greater than our personal unraveling. Feeling an invisible force tugging me forward, I lifted my chin, determination sparking in my chest. Let us go where the truth lies together. My brother's gaze flickered between my son and me, uncertainty weaving through the air, but something softened in his expression as I finally saw a hint of familiarity return. With a shared understanding, we began moving through the throng of people, each step echoing a collective promise to confront whatever darkness lay ahead together. The streets felt alive around us, even as we passed by frantic voices and frightened faces. We maneuvered toward the chaos, drawn not just by fear but by the magnetic push of unanswered questions, spiraling truths threatening to emerge from the shadows of our lives. "Mom!" my son cried just as we approached a gathering crowd murmuring in disbelief. Is that he trailed off, his voice drowning in the uncertainty of revelation. The sight that greeted us was grotesque yet undeniably stirring. A small group stood around a flickering streetlight, their faces partially illuminated, their expressions a blend of confusion and anguish. As I moved closer, each heart-wrenching realization struck me in waves. There on the ground lay the woman I had turned away, my sister, the one person whose absence felt like a gaping wound of unhealed betrayal in my heart. Hers was a face I could never forget, the laughter and joy replaced by an unfathomable sorrow that gripped my chest so tightly it hurt to breathe. "What happened?" I barely managed to utter, feeling the walls of our family closing in on secrets I had never deciphered. "She's been here all along," a voice whispered from within the crowd. "You have to face it or it will never let you go." In that moment the world slowed to a standstill. The truth of our past, the layers of confusion and pain that had built into a cycle of isolation, awaited us all wrapped in the fragile fabric of our connections. Waiting for recognition, I turned to my son, who stood rigid beside me, eyes wide with disbelief, then to my brother, whose gaze mirrored a storm of emotions. Suddenly, it felt as if our journey was preparing to push us toward a reckoning. A chance not just to confront our ghosts but to embrace them, to weave our narratives into something more significant than the sum of our parts. With hearts pounding as one, we stepped forward as a family, ready to disentangle the fears and love entwined in our collective consciousness. Facing the truth was the only way we would emerge whole. "I'm scared," my son admitted softly, voice trembling, yet laden with the courage of a child enduring the storm. "It's okay to be scared," I whispered back, squeezing his hand. "But together we're stronger than the darkness that threatens us." Beneath the surface of hope was a flicker of understanding. Together we would forge ahead. And as I gazed down at my sister, a mixture of anguish and love surged through me. I saw the possibility that lay within the sadness. It was a revelation waiting to unfold, and we would allow it to guide us toward something greater. The last vestiges of night broke, and amidst chaos lay a dawn filled with infinite promise. As I let go of the anger woven within me, and embraced the vulnerability of all the tangled connections that made us who we were, I prepared for whatever journeys awaited us. We, the resilient hearts of a family reborn, walked forward into the soft light that promised healing, a testament that love could always find its way home, even in the darkest corners of our stories. Together, I whispered, feeling the weight of generations lifting as we moved forward with open hearts, ready to face the truth, an unbreakable bond stronger than any burden we had ever carried.